So there's been some drama after the end of Survivor Season 42, most of it revolving around Drea and some comments that she's been making about Omar. I just wanted to cover it in this video because most casual viewers probably have heard nothing about this, but honestly, it's pretty sad to hear the kind of toxic behavior that's happened. And basically, Omar had a really, really terrible experience after getting voted off. There was a lot of toxicity, and this was basically revealed on Rob Cesternino's Deep Dive podcast, and has been correlated, with multiple other players' accounts of what happened at Ponderosa, and also from other fans who have interacted with these players. But basically, Drea was spreading very hurtful lies about him. For example, that he was systematically removing players of color from the game in favor of Jonathan and Lindsay. He would pretend to go off and pray when he was actually scheming. He would ask producers what time it was to plan scrambles before tribal council. He told a story about his father who passed away, and then Drea basically was saying that he lied about that story to kind of get sympathy, and all these other issues. So let's take a quick listen to what Omar has to say. All right, so I tried looking for it, and it looks like it was actually removed. I guess CBS contacted Rob Cesternino and didn't like that Omar was talking about his Ponderosa experience, and so they actually asked him to remove it, so you can't even find it on here anymore. But there was a transcript that was taken of Omar's Ponderosa comments, and so here's kind of what the transcript said here. He's very upset about his Ponderosa experience, and it does truly come from a place of real hurt and not something that I'm just being a baby about. And so he's saying, the way that Drea went out, the way that he betrayed Hai, he did feel like that was harsh, and he understands how they might be a little bit bitter about that. But for him, he was playing the game, right? He was treating people kindly. He never was overtly just mean to people for no reason. And so he felt like he was playing the game. But then when he got to Ponderosa, this is what he says. And then to get to Ponderosa and have that experience opened up with, you are a malicious, evil person who I have no respect for, that systematically eliminated people of color in favor of Jonathan and Lindsay. We have no respect for you, and you're so lucky you didn't make it to the end because we would have embarrassed you in front of everybody at the final tribal council. It cuts very deep, I would say, because I didn't expect it, especially as a very underrepresented person of color, to have that heat come at me for something that I didn't feel was fair was very traumatizing. So, and I think Omar brings up such a great point. So this is stuff that basically Drea said. I think Hai kind of participated in it as well. And honestly, when they both left, I felt like they were just putting on a complete act of like, oh, you guys, this is so fun. Like, that was such a great blindside. You did such a great job blindsiding me. Like, great job, guys. But I think inside, like, they were honestly fuming. I think they were pissed. They were bitter. They just knew how it would come across on national television. And so that's why they, held this all in until Ponderosa. And they had all these thoughts the whole time. And so I feel like, the fact that Drea is saying this is just so hypocritical, right? Because seriously, Omar is the most underrepresented person on the show, probably. Like, Muslim people are honestly, I've never seen them on TV anywhere. And Muslim people for the last decade or more in the US have been a very, very marginalized group, right? And very, very looked down upon by a lot of people who are basically racist. And so for you to be accusing him of systematically eliminating people of color, it's just so out of the blue, and then it just seems it's so detrimental to your own cause, right? Of having everybody have equal representation and just basically having like a normal society where people can be like humane to each other, right? And now you're just using your logic to attack somebody, and it just seems like it's very detrimental to your own cause. And this is Editing Conan here, and I just want to say that there is a huge difference between being kind of schemy and creating lies about people in the context of the game versus spreading lies and hate and kind of mean things about people outside of the game. And so one is obviously the first part that Omar did, but Drea doing this outside of the game where both players are already out is a completely different story. For a long time, even leaving the game, I thought it was a mistake to go on the show. I thought it was a mistake to play the game. But then going through that experience and hearing from the people, actually throughout all of this, I should shout out Tori, because Tori was really the person who was like, you don't deserve this. You shouldn't be treated this way. They're wrong. You are good, and don't let this affect you. And she wrote me the most beautiful letter I've ever received. And I'm not that emotional of a person, but I started sobbing when I read the letter because it was so kind. And that's who Tori is. She's a very kind, empathetic, passionate person. And yeah, honestly, Tori got the villain edit this season. But I think everything that we've seen from her outside of the game has really shown what an amazing person that she is. Her social media is just really great in terms of talking about very important issues. She really seems to be very nice to everybody. It's kind of crazy that she got that villain edit, but she, by all accounts, seems like a amazing person outside of the game. But I think after unraveling all of that, and this is also stuff that came out after the game and months later, where all of that anger was directed towards me, was very much spun by one person. And I think that the way Drea went out of the game, everybody who goes out of the game experiences some form of trauma. Even the person that wins experiences some form of trauma. But I think when you go out of the game in the way that she did, or even the way I went out, I had to reconcile, well, I screwed up with X, Y, and Z. And I underestimated Marianne a little bit. I underestimated Mike a little bit. I underestimated Jonathan a little bit. And that gets rid of the cognitive dissonance for me. But I think for her, who seemed very convinced she was going to win the game, to go out in the way she did by divulging information, to solve that disparity, it's almost as if I had to become a monster. And it was just very hurtful to hear that she had created all these lies about me that were very personal. She told people that I would pretend to pray when I was really strategizing, and that was really hurtful because that's the one thing that's different about me as a Muslim, as I consciously prayed in front of people so that I would not think about that. And then she would also tell people that I would ask production what time it was because I wanted to know how much scrambling time I had, but really I was pretending it was because I wanted to know when to pray. And that's probably something that bothers me kind of the most, because here you are as Drea trying to be a champion of anti-racism and trying to reduce the number of negative narratives that are pervasive throughout media and our culture. And then here you are accusing somebody of lying and cheating while they're doing something that's very integral to their, culture and their personality and their identity, which is praying as a Muslim. And so it's just super hypocritical. She's essentially just attacking him on the basis of his religion. And then I shared a very emotional story about my dad with my tribe and Hai, and all Drea knew about that was that he was no longer on the earth, but she didn't know the full story. But even if she did, that's my story to share with whomever I want. But when she gets out of the game, Hai says, oh, he bonded with me about the death of his father. And then Drea returns that with, well, he told me the same thing. And that's not true. That's very harmful. Don't talk about my dad that way. That's crazy. And I think to heal her relationship with Chanel, for instance, she made it seem like I pitted the two of them against each other for things that are very sensitive and beyond the game, which is very difficult to hear. She told people that we bonded on race on a level beyond the game. And in that moment of weakness, she divulged knowledge as power to me. But as we saw in the show, that didn't happen for 4 more days after that, or 3.5 days. And then apparently at Ponderosa, when Lindsay was talking with Drea would be like, I was always looking out for you, Lindsay, except for when you listened to him. And then she points at Omar, and he's like, basically, it's like he didn't even have a name anymore. So it was kind of crazy to experience that sort of social dynamic where you feel like you can't even express yourself or be normal. He basically goes on to talk about how he had to talk to a lot of psychologists about this and how it was a really difficult experience for him. And honestly, it does seem like this person's literally spreading lies about you. And, we don't have the full story, but by all accounts, it seems like Omar is very credible in the story he's telling. You don't just make this stuff up out of nowhere like Drea does. I mean, Drea seemed like she was the one making up all this stuff. So I don't know. It totally changes the vibe that you get from Drea learning about all this stuff after the game. Anyways, you can see on Reddit that a lot of people are very disappointed in Drea. Honestly, at this point, shame on Drea. This is an awful look in so many ways. I feel like this whole thing has shed more light on Drea's illicit biases more than anyone else's. She needs a mirror. On a very, very generic level, if someone talks about their interactions with you and ends it with, I'm very thankful to the show's psychologist because of the hurt you caused, you're probably in the wrong in some way. The racism thing is so dense. I might be willing to hear something about a guy systematically voting out players of color in favor of 2 white players. I could believe something like that, but Jonathan and Lindsay were his starting tribe mates. It's not like he turned on his tribe to save white players. Omar stuck with his tribe, and part of that was Marianne too. Furthermore, he turned against Jonathan at the very next vote. Damn, it bums me out now that Drea, rather than Omar, received $100,000 from Sia. So again, the Sia award happened this year. I think she brought it out of retirement now, and she gave $100,000 to Drea for being her favorite player. But now it does seem kind of undeserved that Drea won that award from Sia. So this is an interesting graph that people posted, and it's data on which season 42 cast members follow each other on Instagram. Taking a look here, Tori, obviously basically the mediator between everybody, follows everybody. And then you notice that a lot of people don't follow Drea. So Zach doesn't follow her, Mariah, Jenny, Swathi, Lydia. But most notably, look, Omar and Marianne don't follow her. Marianne follows everybody from the season except for Drea. Omar follows everybody from the season except for Drea. You can see that Jonathan and Lindsay still have a beef with each other, both of them not mutually following each other. But really, what really stands out is, Marianne and Omar following everybody except for Drea. That really speaks, I think, volumes about how they feel towards Drea. And the fact that Marianne has been supporting Omar all throughout all of this really also shows you who's probably in the right. And I like how Drea does not follow, she doesn't follow Omar and she doesn't follow Marianne. So it's just such a petty little thing right here. Notably, Thankfully, Lydia also does not follow Drea as well. To be honest, I'm really happy that Marianne is sticking up for her friend here in Omar and basically letting him know that no, she does not agree with him being this systematic racist that was systematically eliminating people of color, as Drea was insinuating. And so honestly, that just makes me feel so much better towards Marianne. And, you know, she's already just a great winner in general, but just seems like a great person sticking up for her friend here. Anyways, a little bit of a controversial video, I guess. But honestly, I felt like it was worth shedding some light onto it because it's crazy how different people can appear on TV compared to how they act truly in real life. And the way they twist things to serve their own agendas and then just turn around and be super hypocritical, accusing people of things and making up all these lies about them is just so devastating, right? It's devastating to see that people are so toxic outside of the game. It's a little bit frustrating to me because, you know, she won the SIA award. People really liked her on the show. Wow, she found so many idols and everything. And that she's not going to get any consequences for just being like what seems to be a very terrible person after the show, right? Again, there's a very big difference between being a terrible person in the game versus being a terrible person outside of the show. And then on top of that, doing the very same things that you are accusing other people of doing, which is being racist and kind of judgmental about other people. Anyways, do you think that Drea's actions were problematic? And do you think that the stories Omar's telling are even accurate about the things she did in Ponderosa and after Survivor in general? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and peace.